Now you're not. You were.
We're going online now. We should be live. Yes, we are. Hello, people. Thank you, everybody. Hello, planet Earth, and welcome to Lilia's live streams on sometimes Wednesdays for our third edition of the Reflective Conversations on Gender Transition, an educational interview series with DM Maynard. I'm Lilia, and my pronouns are she and hers. Today, as I said, we have some special guests hailing from the East Coast of North America, author and educator DM Maynard, who has brought Julie Lipson today, who is a musician, music therapist, and non-binary activist. Welcome to both of you. Happy TDOV, Trans Day of Visibility, everybody. And yeah, thank you. So today's theme focuses on opening spaces for discussing non-binary identities through music. But first, viewers, to those listening to us now, please tell us below in the comments where you hail from and what your questions are, and I will try to incorporate them into our discussion today at the end. So Dee, you and I first met at the Philly Trans Wellness Conference in 2019, which eventually led to our first live last December and has now grown into this beautiful monthly series. Thank you so much. Can you now, I'm going to hand over the interview to you. Can you tell us why you wanted to do this series and how you met Julie to start us off?
Okay, absolutely. I understandably, when a person, an individual who's experiencing a gender transition, the focus is on and about them. And but in those people's lives, there's usually many people that are part of their support team. So I wanted to create a platform that provided a safe space for those that are navigating the transition themselves while they're supporting the person in transition. That the person, a parent, a family member, an educator, a partner. So I wanted to raise their voices up and have them have an opportunity to share how the transition is, how they're experiencing it, them as they're supporting somebody they love in transition. So, so here we have it. And I wanted it to be an educational format so that we could teach about people's experiences and hear their voices and raise the consciousness of that. And so, this is Julie Lipson. And Julie and I had an opportunity to meet a few years ago. Julie was asked to come perform with their band for PCGS. That's the Psychotherapy Center for Gender and Sexuality, and they wanted to support Julie's band and the camp that Julie brought their band actually to help raise money for a camp that Julie helps run that we'll talk about afterward. And then after this fundraiser, a bunch of people went out and I got to know Julie, and I'm so impressed with Julie's enthusiasm and passion for everything, and they're so energetic, and we become friends. And I wanted to really have everybody understand the important work that Julie's doing in all formats. So there you go. And so, Jewel, I would like to start out by asking you to let you know a few things, that if there's anything that I ask that is uncomfortable for you or you don't want to answer, please know that we're live. So share accordingly for your comfort level. But today I just wanted to point out that we are celebrating International Day of Transgender Visibility, which really is dedicated to celebrating transgender people and raising awareness of the discrimination faced by many transgender people worldwide, and also at the same time celebrating the contributions that they've made to society. And so I can't think of a better way to celebrate today than to have a visit from you, Julie. I call Julie Jules sometimes, or Jules, so just so we know. And sometimes Julie goes by Julie Lipson, and then sometimes musically Julie B. So everybody will know if we make reference to that. So would you do me a favor and let us know if at the end, if you have any questions for me that I didn't address, but right now I would like to know. How would you describe your gender journey to others?
All right. Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. And yeah, happy Trans Day of Visibility to everybody. I'm glad we're doing this on today. So my gender journey, when I think about it, I think a lot of it has to do with finding language. I think I was always thinking about gender, but I grew up in the 90s, and the language we had, I think in the queer community, which we didn't use the word queer back then, but was more about feminism and being gay. And there was a lot of stuff going on in my, high school, college activist world about gay marriage. And that was like the only language we had, but I felt, so I was sort of involved in that fight, but it didn't really feel like there was just something missing. And I eventually was invited to help start Camp Aeronautic, which we'll talk about more later, but Camp Aeronautic for trans and non-binary youth. And that's when I kind of had this aha moment where I was like, oh, like the thing that I've been sort of on this journey about is gender and not sexual orientation. And, so I think figuring that out was sort of just so important to me. And that the questions I was trying to ask about myself were about gender and not, I wasn't trying to be a gay person who could get married, but that was really the only language that we had back then.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, you wear many hats, Julie. As we mentioned, you're a musician, you're a music therapist. Well, I would like to know more about that in a minute. And you're also an activist. So as you're wearing those different hats, would you say that your own gender binary identity has shaped your work? And if so, how?
Yeah, I do wear many hats. Thank you for saying that I'm Julie Lipson and Julie B. Sometimes it's confusing, but
No.
I have a kids band called Ants on a Log. We play socially conscious music for kids and families. And my sort of stage name there is Julie B. And then in the rest of my life, I'm Julie Lipson. With all of those hats, in all of those roles, definitely, I always want to see my own experience in music, and I think all musicians are trying to write their lives into their music. So, I am just trying to make that happen. And so many people have said how validating and how important it's been for their families and themselves, the adults and kids. So I think just reflecting that and seeing other people, have that reflection of the non-binary experience. I just feel like it needs to be in music for me, but so many other people agree. So it's been a great ride. And I think I'm always trying to work from that angle of joy, joyful activism. You said in the beginning that Trans Day of Visibility is a lot about acknowledging the oppression that trans people experience, but also their contributions. And I think in all of my work with music and with camp, these are the experiences of feeling connected and feeling supported and validated as a non-binary person. So I think I just am going toward that in everything I do.
What I'm hearing is that you really, it's important to you to make a difference. And I think that that's, having purpose and value and being valued is critical. And, one of the things that I'd love to educate people on today is the use of the pronoun, the singular pronoun of they, and they, their, them. And I was wondering, how do you because that's the pronoun that you use. And how do you handle it if others misgender you? I thought maybe coming from you, it might be a great help to others.
Yeah, sure. Well, often
This happens, if this happens to you, I don't make the assumption. I guess I should ask you if it happens, and then if it does, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm grateful that I live in an area. I live in West Philly, and in West Philadelphia, a lot of people are very comfortable with using they, them pronouns. So I'm very grateful that I live in a place where I don't get misgendered as much as I know many other people do. But yes, it is often an experience that I get misgendered. And it happens in a lot of different ways. It used to happen a lot that I would walk into a bathroom and somebody would kind of look at me like, oh, like, which bathroom are you in? And I ended up writing the song Some Girls Have Short Hair, which is an Anthon Log song. So often it just gets thrown into a song. But I always try to address it in some way, assuming I'm in a safe place and I feel safe. I would say that's number one. I'm not trying to tell anybody to correct pronouns if you don't feel safe. But for me, if I feel safe, I try to confront people in friendly and confident ways. I try not to say, oh, I'm sorry, but can I please take up space? I try to say, just a friendly reminder, I use they, them pronouns. And I'll often say, I don't use she, her pronouns, I use they, them pronouns, because sometimes people just need the context. If they just hear, I use they, them pronouns, it doesn't compute. They're like, what did you just say? So I'll say, just a friendly reminder, I don't use she, her pronouns, I use they, them pronouns. And I also really try to find the right moment. It might not be in the moment the person is talking really quickly or having conversation. I might wait till 5 minutes after the conversation. Something that I've gotten much better at over the past several years is on the phone with like a credit card or like a bank, health insurance, whoever you're calling who you don't actually know. I say, they always say, hello, Miss Lipson. Yes, blah, 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 blah. And I say, could you actually just call me Julie? I really don't like Miss because it doesn't align with my gender. And I think just that one sort of like very short phrase is helpful. And I think the more people that just say that, instead of saying, can you just call me Julie? I want to add the reason why, because the more people who say that, the more they'll hear it. And the more their, support teams or training staff will say, oh, well, we record these calls and we get this a lot. This is happening a lot, And then I just try to empathize that people need practice, which is why I started the project, Practice Your Pronouns. And I have a lot of empathy that it's very hard. It's hard to switch your brain, and it can be done. So I don't let, old people a lot say, I'm old and I can't do this. And I don't really let people get away with that. I say, if I said to you, you were old and your brain isn't malleable anymore, I feel like they wouldn't like that. And that's not true. I have a favorite aunt who's 75 and she's like the best pronouner I've ever met.
Well, not being 20 years old, I can relate to the sentence you just said, and I certainly can get used to it, and so can others. And right. I think I love your tips. Education is the best thing. I love the idea how, the safety is the most important when you're doing that. And I do think that starting with I don't use she, her, hers really is a great reference. I know telephones are always a difficult place.
Yeah. And
because it's one of the ways people associate gender is through voice. Christy Block, if you need help with that, we'll talk about which we also know Christy Block mutually. All right.
Yeah, great language therapist. Yeah.
It's fantastic. So that's, in fact, I think it's what is it, 6 degrees of separation through Christy, I think. And anyway, so one of the things that I want to always thank you for is when my books came out, my last 2 books, you offered to and volunteered to sing your songs. I really wanted a way to not just talk to people about pronouns, but also have it. I think music is one of the best forums for educating people. So you came and sang at my book releases, and so I really want to thank you for that.
Yeah, it was so fun to do that.
Yeah. So
and Dee, how about you tell us a little bit more about the other books and the hope in the box? You got a recognition from one of your books just recently. It's really exciting.
Thank you. Okay. Do you, I'm good. You want me to show them the book?
I can share an image. You don't need to show the books. If you could just
Okay.
explain it for me. I'm going to share the image
Okay.
here.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
There we
Okay.
go.
I have them if you need. Okay. All right. I mean, I always have them, but I'm always making reference to myself, which is, okay. So I'll talk about, well, anyway, on April 28th, I'm going to be interviewing a partner and her spouse. And so it's Paula and Derek. So it'll be April 28th on this format. It's part of the series. And so we're going to be focusing on the first book I wrote, which is the reflective workbook for partners of transgender people. Your transition is your partner transitions. It's a little more fluid way of saying it because everybody goes through their own transition when one person in the family transitions. And different types, but it's may not be a gender transition, the family members, but there could be more than one person in a family transitioning, of course. And so then, what actually Paula started, they have a nonprofit organization that helps, which we'll focus on more next time, but they started a book club with my book, and now there's tons of people around the US and joined from other countries that are doing book clubs with my book. So I'm very, very, I never could have imagined. And then the second book that I wrote was the reflective workbook for parents and families of transgender and non-binary or NB children. The phrase wasn't really, when we first were writing it, NB wasn't as well known as it is now. So I want to say that too. So it's for parents and family members of transgender and non-binary children, your transition as your child transitions. And a question people are often asking me is, can it be used for parents of their child of any age? And yes, if your child is 30 in transition, or 50 or 5, it works for any parent or family member. So of a person, regardless of the chronological age of the person in transition. And so the third book, so Julie actually sang at the release for that book. And then the last one that came out this year, which is not the last, just the next, the reflective workbook for teachers and support staff of transgender and non-binary students, your school's transition as your students transition. And that one's near and dear to my heart most because, well, I don't know if it's most, but first and foremost, I'm a teacher, and I did that for more than 30 years in the classroom, and I really feel that there's a strong need for this. And I just found out this week that Hope in a Box, which is a not-for-profit organization that equips rural educators in the US with the LGBT community. They include inclusive books, curriculum, and training and mentorship. They send boxes of books, 20 to 25 books to rural areas, to schools and rural communities. And what they wanted, my education book got selected. So Julie, that's what I was trying to tell you. I didn't have to go until this week, yesterday really. And so they're doing a fundraiser. I'll send, I think you said you would put the link up, right, Lil? You already did. You're so amazing, Lil. And if people want to donate money, because what happens is my publishers, Jessica and the publishers, have agreed to a 40% discount for the book, and then we have to include some shipping. So it comes out to about $20 a book. But if a person just even wants to donate $1 or $5, they don't have to, whatever amount we'll take change, whatever. It goes towards this. Our goal is to raise $4,000, about that, maybe a little less, and then we can send it. They want to put it in all the books that they send out, which is 200 this spring. So I'm getting in under the wire here, but it went through a board review there and everything, and then they selected my book, and this will help teachers who in rural communities really understand how to support the trans and non-binary students in their school without maybe having a formal training prior. They would get all the information through this and to self-reflect on their own journey as an educator, an administrator, or support staff. So that book's the reflective workbook for teachers and support staff. So Jewel, that's it. I'm not going to talk. So, Jewel, thank you again for coming to that. Those two, you really made a difference there. And I know everybody's going to fall in love with your music now. So this is from your trans and non-binary kids mix, correct? And I know that you're, I believe that you often perform with Anya Rose, is that correct? In the past?
That's correct. Yep.
Right, from Ants on a Log. And then you were also written up in the New York Times. I don't want to forget about that article that really, the New York Times included trans and non-binary mix in a short list that they picked albums or different things that they felt that parents and that adults and kids would really love. And this was picked. So check out that. I think you're going to put the New York Times article up, or if not, check out Julie and you'll see. So I would love you to sing the song, They're My Best Friend. And sure. We will be your backup if you want. I love to sing and perform, as many people know. So it's all yours.
Yeah, this song is an Ants on a Log song, and it is on the Trans and Non-Binary Kids Mix, which is a compilation of about 20 artists, trans, non-binary allies, and it's gotten such great press, which I'm so grateful for. The NPR's Morning Edition interviewed me, and the Times put out that article, and you know, it just shows that families are demanding this. We need this. And you're right, as you said, the music is just really such an important education tool. A lot of teachers contacted me afterward and said, I'm going to use this mix in my classroom. I think it's easier for people to learn pronouns when they're singing along to, you know, we remember things much better when we are singing them. So I wrote this song.
I just want to say that you're in, and I actually agree with you, and I put it in the resource section of my education book, because I agree with you. All of your things, I had to include it because as an educator, I recommend people play this in the classroom. Okay, I just want to do a little plug for you there because
Thank you.
It's in the book. If you can't find Julie, look it up in the back of the resources.
If you can't find me, there's something wrong with your internet.
Exactly.
So this song was the first song with non-binary pronouns to be on national radio. And the sing-along part for all you at home goes like this. Ooh. So you can try that and we will all do it together several times. Here we go. Ooh. Their favorite game is Monopoly. Unless it takes 17 hours. Then they prefer finger paint twister, as long as there's time before bed for a shower. Ooh. Their name is Alex, like Alexander or Alexandra, except without the ender or andra at the end. Yeah, there's no ander or andra at the end. They're just Alex and they're my best friend. Ooh, nice background dancing. I love that. Their favorite dessert is banana bread with whipped cream and cherries on top. They're too young to drink cappuccinos, I think. But when they grow up, they want to own their own coffee shop. Their name is Sam, like Samantha or Samuel, except without the antha or mule at the end. Yeah, there's no antha or mule at the end. They're just Sam and they're my best friends. One more time with the oohs. Here we go. Ooh. All right, I gotta hire you two for my background dancers. So usually Ants on a Log sings these two parts together, but there's just one of me here today, so I'm gonna try to sing both parts with Alex and with Sam as my best friends. Here we go. Alex, they're my best friend. I can't wait till you meet them. Alex, they're my best friend. I can't wait till you meet them. Okay, let me try. Sam, they're my Wow, that was some good choreography. Thank you for that contribution. All right, Dee, you got to unmute yourself.
We are in such demand. I don't even know what to say. You know, they're knocking down our doors for this. But we'll stick to our day job, right? Which are many jobs, of course. Our day jobs, I should say, as all three of us are, many hats. You know, I want to talk about, if you're comfortable now, some people listening might not know much about music therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, since I know that's one of your part of your main career.
One of my hats.
One of your hats, exactly. If you could just educate us all so we can gain a little better understanding about, you know, what type of therapy this is, how it all works.
Sure. Well, the first thing I'll say is going to a music therapist is like going to any other therapist. We use music to get at the same goals that you would go to any other therapist for. And you don't need any musical experience. So let's say you're working on depression or anxiety or, you know, any myriad of things that you would go to a therapist for. We might look at a song together. We might write a song. We might express emotions on instruments or vocally. It really just depends, but generally we find that music just helps people get deeper and access emotions, and really sort of like circumvents a lot of intellectualism. You know, often people will say, "Oh, I'm feeling sad," or I'm grieving because, you know, my loved one died," or something like that. But that doesn't mean they're feeling or they're connecting with that sadness, for instance. And I'm sure, you know, most people out there have had the experience of some emotion hitting you when you hear a song or a song reminds you of something. So that's just one example of you know, why and how music can really get to those emotions in a more effective way.
In a therapeutic setting, like in a therapeutic setting.
Exactly, and that's the next thing I was gonna say is that that doesn't mean you're engaged in music therapy if you hear a song and you have an emotion. So music therapists are trained to elicit those emotions and then work with those emotions. So let's say after we do some kind of music intervention like that, then we guide clients to explore what happened, or we, you know, then we work to express music, or we will work with instruments or something like that. And music therapists do work with mental health patients a lot, but also physical goals like stroke or pain management. There's, you know, cancer treatment music therapists. We work with kids and adults and individuals. I do a lot of group therapy. So it can look a lot of different ways. I specifically work with often trans and non-binary folks who are exploring how their voice sort of interacts with their gender, and, you know, finding like an authentic self.
Didn't you write, and now I'm thinking about it, I think, didn't you write an article or chapter in something recently? I know that I had read something about that. I'm remembering because I did so much research about you before. Oh!
Creative arts therapies in the LGBTQ community. Yeah, yes. I have a chapter in here about how, about my work with groups, music therapy groups for trans and non-binary folks. And it sort of goes into more detail about some of those things that we've done with the voice and how that can help people explore their connection between their voice and their gender.
Okay, great. It hit me because I was going to ask you about your groups, but you touched on it a little bit. So are you doing the groups as much anymore, or you did it a while ago, I know, but I'm not sure where you're at with that.
Yeah, they're sort of, they sort of rotate on a no regular schedule basis. Recently, the group that I did the most recently was over Zoom because of the pandemic, but it was so great because 50 people came, and you can't have a 50-person group in person. So it was a vocal workshop for trans and non-binary folks, and actually this group was purposefully not a therapy group, because although I brought my skills as a music therapist to lead the group, it sort of came from the place where trans people are often told, you know, oh, well, you need therapy. But we might not need therapy at that moment. We just might need a place to explore range, or explore what feels authentic, or explore what, aligns outside and inside in my view of myself, and, see when I'm censoring my voice, when I'm censoring myself. So I partnered with Emily Bate, who is a choir leader. She leads a West Philadelphia choir called Trust Your Moves, which is a non-audition queer choir. And we did these workshops that were probably therapeutic and informational, but specifically and intentionally not therapy. And that was really, really useful for a lot of people who wanted to explore their voices in a safe way, but not necessarily, be in therapy, because that's not what they were looking for,
Yeah, I think the use of voice is critical, and it is a way to release a lot of emotions, as well as get a way to practice. And one of the things that I always found important is that when as I'm a professional singer, and you can't tell by my dance moves, of course, even though it's not my voice, but that all the training in the musical theater really helped those little moves there. I'm sure you can notice that immediately.
Those were good moves.
Oh, I mean, just off the charts. So anyway, but I always found that if I sang, it was just so therapeutic, and I can even, doing it in that type of setting. What I've always noticed too is that you don't have to be a professional singer. You don't even have to be able to have good pitch or good tone or anything. It's the idea that it's an inner growth that helps you through the release of, using your voice in that way. So yeah. I really promote music therapy to people. That's all. I just want to show, there's a lot of ways to do therapy. And I think any way that can help a person feel better, I'm for it, in a safe way, responsible way.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned the difference sort of between like singing and, like learning to sing and music therapy. And I think that's really important. And, I think that as kids, we are told, here's what's acceptable expression, in your, whatever you do. Like when kids wear the wrong shirt, they're told, when kids, if a young boy dances, sometimes, they're told dancing's for girls or something like that. We're given a lot of these cues as kids. And so we learn to censor ourselves, and then it doesn't mean you need to learn to classically sing. It just means you need to address where you've been censored, and that could be about the voice. So a lot of the things, we do in therapy are not about, everything we do in therapy is not about learning to sing. It's just about addressing that like self-censorship. And of course, like, as you're saying, it comes out in your voice.
Right. I have a friend who sings off pitch all the time, and I get the most joy when I hear them sing. And truly, I also think that what you're also talking about is that you include musical instruments and you use other ways to create music. It could either be a hum, or, like you're saying, writing. There can be all ways to express music. And it's also I always think, as a teacher and also a licensed in math, is that it really helps educational ways and different builds that too, your educational foundation, as well as your emotional. I want to get to more of your music, if that's okay, because I really want to. Could you tell us a little bit more about Practice Your Pronouns, and maybe I think that we have a video, and I'm not going to act like we don't, because we do. So why not just be honest up here? So would you just tell us a little bit more about that project, or HAT as we call it?
Sure thing. Practice Your Pronouns is my favorite thing I'm doing right now. It was inspired by people who really wanted to get my pronouns right, but just couldn't. They just couldn't do it. And I just felt like, of course you can't do it. You need practice. If I'm the only person in your life, and I acknowledge, like, not everybody has hundreds of friends like I do who use they, them pronouns. You just might need some practice. So, and I saw a lot of shame and guilt around it. Like, people would say, oh, I'm terrible, I just can't get this right. And I would say, well, try calling your pet, try using non-binary pronouns for your pet, or your fridge, or, sing along to the songs that are on the radio and try to, switch the pronouns. I would try to give people like creative ways to do it. So eventually I just thought, you know what, I'm going to make a series of songs. They're going to be songs people already know. So far I've done Whitney Houston, the Beatles. We're going to see a Beatles video right now. Green Day, and I just switch the pronouns. Sometimes I switch them to non-binary pronouns. So, like I did a Green Day song called She, and I switched them all to he. We just need practice making that little switch in our brains, and the more that you do it, the more it'll happen in real life. So this is a fun way to practice your pronouns. And if you are not somebody who's trying to practice your pronouns, you're just a non-binary person like me who wants your experience in media, then it's just really visibilizing and legitimizing. And I am so happy to be putting this out there.
Okay.
So yeah, here's our video, right?
Here's your video. I cannot wait to, I love this video.
Well, they were just 17, you know what I mean, and the way they looked is way beyond compare. So how could I dance with another when I saw them standing there? Well, they looked at me, and I could see that before too long I'd fall in love with them. They wouldn't dance with another when I saw them standing there. Well, my heart went boom when I crossed that room, and I held their hand in mine. Well, we danced through the night, we held each other tight, and before too long I fell in love with them. Now I'll never dance with another.
Uh-oh, Lilia, you gotta unmute because you're
I think the
muted to
sound's
me.
off. Lil, I think the sound's off.
Well, my heart went boom when I crossed that room, and I held their hand in mine. Oh, we danced through the night, we held each other tight, and before too long I fell in love with them. Now I'll never dance with another, since I saw them standing there. Since I saw them standing there. Yes, since I saw them standing there.
I love that. I love the people that you got. I love the representation. I love the joy of your music. If I'm feeling down for a moment, especially during the pandemic, I put on one of your videos or one of your songs and I'm already thrilled and happy and transformed, you know? So thank you for sharing this. You know, I can't express what a fan I am of yours, but I think I've said it like 5 times now, so I guess I'm expressing it. You know, I was thinking how you're changing the pronouns in lyrics. Some things I recommend in my education book is along the same line, is that teachers or anyone can write a sentence out using she, her, hers, or he, him, his, and then change it to they, them, their, and practice saying that aloud in front of a mirror by themselves, walking around. And I even say, like, it's such a simple thing to be seen on this day of trans visibility, is that when teachers even do come up with word problems. Instead of saying he has 3 cars and 2 books, how many they have all together, to say they have. And I think that a child who might not be turned on to math, they will totally be into that then, you know, and it also gives practice and has the visibility. So, and there's so many examples in the education book, but these are 2 that I think of when you talk about changing it in lyrics. I think it's a great way to remember. And so I applaud your work. And I think there's about 21 artists that signed up with you. I don't know. I remember thinking the number 21 song. 21 songs. 21 songs. I know
21 songs are on the trans and non-binary kids mix. Yeah.
Oh.
Those were all amazing collaborators that are all on that mix. Yeah. And the practice your pronouns is it's a different Instagram handle, but it's, you know, it's all coming from the same place of visibility.
Right. Which is within you too.
Yeah.
And I think we'll have the links for that also. So how do you come up with the ideas for your songs?
Well, often something just happens and then I find something that feels right to say about it. I talk to myself a lot on my bike. So I'll be biking and I'll be saying, oh, I can't believe that thing just happened, that person, blah, 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 blah. And then I'll say a sentence and I'm like, oh, that feels right. And then I'll go from there. I'll make that the chorus. I'll write a song based on whatever I just said to myself. That's my inner process. And right now I'm actually working on an album with Linz Amer from Queer Kid Stuff, which is an awesome series. If folks want to check out some great education for families about queerness, but also about like privilege and all sorts of great intersectional work. So anyway, we're working on an album to give language to queer experience, and we came up with a bunch of song ideas from, well, what are concepts of, you know, our queer just like community that we wanted to give voice to. You know, like queer families always have to hear songs about mommy and daddy. So I'm writing a song right now about with just all non-binary parent names. I often wear suspenders when I perform. When I'm performing with Ants on a Log, that's a little bit of, that's kind of my uniform. And
like me with scarves.
Scarves. Oh yeah, right.
Scarves. So yes.
Yes, exactly. Like whatever matches your gender. So I had to think about, you know, how do I give language to something like gender presentation? And I thought, oh, well, suspenders match my gender. I'm going to write a song about that.
Hey, that's great. I love that.
Yeah, it was very fortuitous that those 2 words rhyme. And you know, I'm just trying to like express the most specific possible things in my head, because I find that songs that the most specific actually turns out to be the most universal.
Yes. And I'm glad that this is out there, and that I can't wait you have to let me know that next time when the album comes out, because we have to let everybody know, okay?
Yeah, for sure. We're trying to get some grants right now, but I will for sure keep you posted.
Okay, yes. Yeah, grants.
That's my other hat, a grant writer.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I know that sometimes I'm calling you and you're like, I'm writing a grant right now. I'm like, oh, me too.
All the time.
So I wanted to get to the camp, because I don't want to run out of time without that. So tell us about the camp that you run. I know it's for transgender and non-binary youth. And if you could also include how kids get to attend, the safety of the camp that's around that, how you do that, and how others can get involved.
Sure.
Because it's fantastic.
Yeah, so Camp Aeronautic is a camp for trans and non-binary youth. It's in New Hampshire, and it's been around since 2009, and I've been there the whole time, just building it up with the awesome team. I'm assistant director. I want to tell you what Aeronautic means, but I want to sing it to you because we wanted to make sure that the kids knew like where this word came from and really give credit where credit is due. So I made a song because, as we keep talking about, music just sticks with people way more than words. I'll just sing you the very beginning of the song. So it goes.
Okay, go ahead. You can sing as much of it as you want. I will listen all day long.
Great. It goes, Aeronautic is a word for people like you and me. Super cool, amazing humans who transcend the gender binary. So Aeronautic is a word from the Yupik people, which is an indigenous people of Alaska, and their language is Chugach. And Aeronautic means it was a person who is thought to embody both the male and female spirit, or to transcend the gender binary. And they were actually like really revered and thought to be.
The Two-Spirit. That's how we get Two-Spirit.
Oh,
I believe.
sure. That makes sense. I'm sure each culture has a different response to that
Right.
question, but I see what you're saying.
I'm
Yeah,
an expert in that. I mean, but I have, written a little bit with it included, but I'm just, I guess maybe a little expert. Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
okay.
I don't want to say too much. Okay.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Sounds like you got some knowledge over there. So anyway, camp is this amazing place. It's not a formal gender program at all. It's just for kids to come be kids and go canoeing and make arts and crafts and climb a rock wall and be with other people who are trans and non-binary. We purposely have staff of all genders, not just trans people, because we don't want kids to think that, well, only trans people, only trans adults will accept you. We have all sorts of staff, cis people too. And it's just like the best place on earth. What can I say? To get to camp, you can go to campaeronautic.org, which I'm sure Lilia is posting right now. And you can sign up if you're 8 to 15, you can sign up for camp. If you are any age, your kid is any age, you can sign up for our family camps. And make sure you get in young, because we don't take new campers who are 14 and 15. We gotta get to know you young. We just have such a demand. It started out as a week-long program, and now this summer we're coming up to 6 weeks. So because of that demand, things have changed and shifted over the years, but it's really the best place on earth, I think.
And so as far as volunteering goes, and
Yes.
help funding, I don't know, is the cost, is it paid for?
So we our model is something I love. Our model is we bring anybody who needs to come to camp. We have financial aid for you, and we don't have like a pot of money, and once the pot of money runs out, then you can't come. It's like we see how many people need to come to camp. We say, this is the amount of money we need to raise, and we do it because we want everybody to be able to come to camp. And if you want to volunteer, we would love to have you, and you should just go to campaeronautic.org and see what we have. It's actually not volunteer anymore. Now it's paid. I should mention that change. So we are looking for all sorts of staff, counselors, nurses, kitchen staff. We want you if you're interested.
Right. I think that what you were hitting on is, the activities that you do. And I think it sounds like utopia to me. And in the way that, you don't have to worry about bathrooms. You don't have to worry about pronouns. You don't have a child or any counselor or anybody. You don't have to explain yourself there. And I think that that's like one of the beauties of this camp, is that it just puts that all asleep, and it's just pure fun. And so I think what you're doing is beautiful, Julie. I think no matter what spot you're in, you're doing something really meaningful, and I really think it's incredible. And on this day of transgender visibility, I really think that you help shine a light on that. And I think it's really, I feel so happy to be interviewing you today. I was wondering, like, where do you see you? I know you just talked about the album, but where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, great question.
I know, a lot of people don't love this question. It doesn't have to be exactly 5 years. Like, where do you hope to go? Besides that, everybody in the world will know your work and your name, because that
would be great.
That's my hope for you.
I think I would like to bring more of an educational component to the stuff that I'm doing. So the albums that I'm putting out, the music I'm releasing, if I could create some kind of companion workbook or some kind of, tour around schools and libraries, something like that sort of goes along with the music. Because, sitting in a room recording is not the connective experience that I necessarily want. I do want some of that, but I don't want only that. So really being able to connect the music I'm making to a larger, broader context, I hope for myself in the next 5 years.
So all those that are in school or work in schools, hear Julie's plea and Julie's request, because you will not be disappointed. And publishers out there, please give them a shot. And so do you have any advice for kids or family members and educators about how they can best support the gender journey of someone, particularly someone who is a person who identifies as non-binary, from your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, my first recommendation, of course, is to practice your pronouns. Just figure that out in the way that works for you, and don't continue to tell us how hard it is for you. Just figure it out. It is hard, but it's not that hard. There are lots of resources for you. I would say, if you can find a way to open your eyes to all the way that gender is not just two things, if you can place it in historical context, if you can do some reading about how lots of different cultures have lots of different frameworks for, how gender is this very interesting, complex situation, and the white man of America has just sort of colonialized and made this into a binary situation. If you can understand that would be helpful. How else to support? I mean, I think just really asking your loved one, your friend, your kid, how can I be supportive? Because everybody has such a different response to that question,
Yeah. I see that like you and I have, and I know that Lil at the beginning and it says her pronouns, and that just posting it publicly, and educating people more even that way. It's a small step of, then again, because I know that it may be being a lot about talking about pronouns or names, but they do matter, and that can help a child, a student, an adult. I would come from a teacher head here, of course. Even when people are in a really low point, to be recognized and seen in that way. And I know it takes adjustments sometimes for parents or teachers. And that I also want to say is that if you are a teacher listening or somebody, when you do sub-plans, put in a student's pronoun that they use, and put in their name that they use, even if it's not on all documentation. This is all in whatever, in the education book. But I'm just saying, I think it's really important to remember with substitutes and after school programs, because you have it in the camp. And it's okay if, at the beginning you have to put it on name tags, you have to put it somewhere. But it's really important to honor a person and be called by the correct name and pronoun. It's very respectful, and it's easy. It may seem hard at the beginning, but when you practice and when you try, and no, I don't think I didn't get perfect beginning. And what was the phrase, Lil, we were saying before? Recognize and apologize. Recognize you might have made a mistake, and don't say, oh, whatever. Just say, I'm sorry. I recognize that I said it incorrectly. I will do better next time. I will try. And I think that goes along with this, but I'm just thinking of it inspired by what you just said, to remind people that. And is there, I think we may, two more things. I think we're going to have time for another song if you have it in you. If you don't, no worries. I'm sure you. I don't know what you're going to play, but I said if there was more time. And then lastly, well, I'll ask you that after. I'm going to give you this space, and it's all yours, Julie.
Okay, great. Yeah, okay, so this is Terry the Non-Binary Canary, which is a song that is unreleased. You're seeing it, before the album comes out.
Are we debuting it here?
I mean, sure, this could be the debut. It's been on some smaller Zooms, but this is probably the largest Zoom it's been on.
Okay, so we're
So,
going to take
the
credit.
world debut of
Okay.
Terry.
Woo! Drum roll here. Okay.
All right. Terry, the non-binary canary, liked to play piano, bass, guitar, and drums. They would sit upon a cloud where they could be so loud, and they weren't half bad for a bird with no thumbs. Oops. Terry, the non-binary canary, liked to dress up in a costume every day. If they covered up their yellow, you could never tell. Oh, if they looked just like a red robin or a blue jay. Oh, Terry, Terry, is it very scary when there's a thunderstorm and you're flying around? Oh, very, very, it is very scary, so I dress up like a bear and hibernate underground. Oh, Terry, Terry, is it very hairy when you dress up like a bear and hibernate underground? Oh, very, very, it is very hairy, and this bear costume must weigh 100 pounds. Terry, the non-binary canary, liked to play piano, bass, guitar, and drums. They would sit upon a cloud where they could be so loud, and they weren't half bad for a bird with no thumbs.
And you teach about hibernation in there.
Yes, you know what? And that is the point. That's like the whole point, like you were saying, with putting it up on the board for math problems. It's like the song doesn't have to be about gender. We're just using the words. We're just getting it in the language. You get it.
Exactly.
We're just teaching about hibernation.
Right, because when I taught first grade and second, we did, well, first mostly, but and STEAM, we included that. And I think that this is what the point is that when you play it in your classroom, the focus is often on the educational skill, and this just happens to be another way that they learn. It's just
Right.
another thing.
We're normalizing. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, because it needs to be, because
Right.
it is. That's all, because it is. So I would, is there anything else that you would like to share that that I should have addressed, or you would want me to ask you?
The only other thing I think that's important for people to know is maybe like where non-binary sits in the trans umbrella. I get asked a lot, are you trans? And I think my answer to that is, I identify as non-binary and genderqueer, and under the trans umbrella, that is definitely a string hanging down from the trans umbrella. But I also want to acknowledge that I have a lot of privilege. I can pass in many ways that if you're a non-binary, I mean, if you are a binary trans person, you may not have that privilege. We all have sort of like different privileges at different times. And it's tricky. And so I just want to acknowledge that, like, sometimes I feel like I'm in that trans bucket and sometimes I don't. And that's okay.
Right. And on a day of celebrating the transgender community today, I think that it's really important to leave space for people to identify any way that is correct for themselves, that they feel is their identity, and that whether a person uses the words transgender, whether that is part of their identity or not, just ask a person how they identify and respect that and honor that. And I'm really grateful that you brought that point up. So I always wonder if the question matters, and I'm glad that I found in this way that it is important that I didn't address that, because I thought of it, and then I was thinking of the continuum, and I like the way I feel glad that you answered it as you did, and that people sometimes can be very fluid with their identity, and that to just have a person state one way or one thing it's not one size fits all, whether even identifying on a transgender spectrum. You shouldn't have to do that to be respected, So I would like to say again, Hope in a Box, if you're interested in helping the rural communities and transgender people, please check that out. And also, I thank you so much for spending this hour plus with us, Julie, and with all your talents and all your resources. I know, Lil, you went to some camp, but I don't know if we'll talk about that, but we've all had camp experiences. But if you get a chance, please, please check out the camp also. Would you say the name of the camp again for us, Julie?
Yep, it's Camp Aeronautic.
Okay, and check out Ants on a Log, check out Practice Your Pronouns, check out the trans and non-binary kids mix stuff, and all the future albums to come, and education that you are going to offer others, and give music therapy a shot if that sounds right for you. And I wish everybody today a beautiful, beautiful day of celebrating who you are, and just as you are is just perfect. And Lil, I know you want to take us out. And again, thank you for talking about the work that you've done, Julie.
Thank you so much for having me and for being such an awesome supporter of all my many hats.
Thank you so much, Julie and Dee, for doing this. You've both been awesome. It's been so much fun. Thank you, everybody who's been listening here today. Let's give a big hand to Dee Maynard and Julie Lipson. Thank you both so much. And we just wanted to make a space for our TGNB, or gender questioning loved one, who needs a hug today on Trans Day of Visibility. So here's a big hug from me for all of you. And I don't know if you have anything else you want to say, Julie or DM.
Is there any questions or comments that you wanted to share? I don't know if we have a minute for a question.
Oh yeah. Well, there weren't any questions, but there were some comments in here. People rooting, love the singing, lots of clapping, love the songs. And someone here, Sarah Ann, said, I have a 92-year-old aunt who never misgenders me. She even corrected my 87-year-old father when he misgenders me on occasion. So
that's beautiful.
Fantastic. It's never too old, too late, too early to learn to practice the pronouns. And yeah, people's
cultures too, like not just age, but all the diversities, all the different intersections that we, represent, to also understand that there's space for that too in time.
Ooh, that could be a whole nother hour of ways that different languages are addressing this.
Exactly. Languages and cultures. Yes.
Yeah. And on the last song there, Violin here says the hits keep on coming. Love it. So yeah, people. Sugar Free says, my angel loved your song. They were singing along.
Nice. Thank you for singing along out there.
And Daisy Rose here, never had to practice my pronouns. Now, as for my neighbor, mispronouncing me in public.
Your neighbor needs some practice.
So let's play the songs for your neighbor.
You just read, when we said the language, Julie, I just want to say, I think I write about foreign language teachers and how they can address this. There's information about that too, because I think that, so I'm glad that you just, Julie's like, you read my mind without me saying anything. So yeah, I think that that's very important in schools to understand the different languages, different cultures that come in, and how that might affect things too.
For sure.
So, yeah, so the neighbor practicing is important. And I remember when we did, I think this is like the 4th or 5th interview. We had done an interview. When I first met you, we did it in December, and, just to explain the work, but that I was doing. And then we had the couple from Toronto in January, but then in February, when we had the parent, they were talking about how they, their neighbors, it was very hard for the community and neighbors, and that it got to a point where they just said, this is how you need to address me or my child. And I think that there is a time and place. I don't know, somehow she said, sometimes you just can't be nice. You can try to be nice the best, and then you have to say, this is unacceptable, And so I'm really think it's great that a person in their 90s is really, supporting the community. And then I'm sure there's plenty of 90-year-olds out there that are. And so what else were they saying, Jewel? I mean, Lil.
Yeah, that was the last one. Yeah, and lots of clapping. We had Paris here, Detroit, India represented. So people from around the globe listening in, and it's all positive.
I think people from all around the world are listening. It's beautiful.
Yeah, from different continents. So that's fantastic. And this video is going to be saved onto our YouTube channel. So if you couldn't stay or know somebody who wanted to watch and couldn't make it, please share the video. It's the same link as always, and you can revisit the songs. It'll be here on our channel. So again, thank you so much, both of you. I would love to have you back, Jules, for International Pronouns Day, which is later on this year in the fall, I believe. I can't remember exactly what day it is.
We'll bring it back.
Yes.
Sounds like a great holiday.
Yes. So we always do something for that. So that would be fantastic to have you back then. Thank you so much, both of you again. And we will be back next month, Dee, right? So who's coming?
April 28th with a partner and their spouse. Perfect.
So yeah, we'll be publishing soon the time and everything and the link to that for those of you who want to come back next month for these monthly reflective interviews, which are fantastic. They are great, and we're getting lots of wonderful feedback about them. So yeah, so I would just like to say I've put all the links in the chats. The information's all in the description of the video. If you want to come back and visit and get the resources, all the links are there. Like this video, follow our channel, share this video with your lovely friends, and remember, your health and happiness matters. Do some dancing and listen to Jules' music.
Yes.
Bye-bye, everybody.